Post-training notice. National First Class Registered Exorcist. Chapter 96. Withstanding a Devil. The Dowdy's head spun, and it turned into black chi that burst out from the muddy waters, pouncing wildly around and slamming into things. For a moment, Zhi Xiaoduo thought that it would leap towards Xiang Cheng and himself, but it seemed to have already exhausted itself. Xiang Cheng wanted to draw a breath and charge out, but he staggered into the car door instead. "Stop forcing yourself," Zhi Xiaoduo hurriedly said. "I can't catch up with it." Xiang Cheng, slumped against the car door, gasping for breath, had no choice but to watch as the Dowdy flew away. Zhi Xiaoduo stroked Xiang Cheng's face worriedly, but Xiang Cheng began to laugh. At that moment, Zhi Xiaoduo suddenly felt as if nothing else was important. Even if they died in the very next moment, he and Xiang Cheng were no longer scared. "Let's continue." Walking along, Xiang Cheng said, still short of breath. "I need to rest for a while." "Whose excavator is the best at digging?" Zhi Xiaoduo began to laugh, and he turned around, taking Xiang Cheng with him as he went over the mountain path, driving into the darkness. "Where to?" Zhi Xiaoduo turned back to look at Xiang Cheng. "Go down the mountain, ahead, and after entering the small road, turn right," Xiang Cheng directed. Their surroundings were very quiet, there was only the sound of the track crushing the trees and grasses on the road. Zhi Xiaoduo turned back to look at Xiang Cheng, who was leaning up in the passenger seat, just a little shorter than Zhi Xiaoduo. He put one hand on his knee and pinched him slightly. The excavator hit a bump, and Zhi Xiaoduo had to focus all his attention on driving. He turned on the headlights to prevent them from driving off a cliff. "You even know how to drive this?" Xiang Cheng asked Zhi Xiaoduo after he had calmed down a little. "Before, when I went to a building site and had nothing to do, I learned this from the foreman's subordinates," Zhi Xiaoduo said. "I'll stop talking. How much further do we have?" "Turn left up ahead," Xiang Cheng said. Xiang Cheng looked out at the road through the dense forest, lost in thought. "Are you all right?" Zhi Xiaoduo asked, staring at the road ahead. "Were you injured?" "I was reminded of my mom," Xiang Cheng murmured. A light rain had once again begun to drift down under those harsh white lights, and that scene from 12 years ago seemed to once again appear in front of Xiang Cheng's eyes, his mother taking him through the dense forest to leave their home and his father while surrounded by exorcists pursuing them in every direction. She held Xiang Cheng's hand, speeding along in the dark forest. The hem of her dress caught on some shrubs, and a piece was torn off with the sound of ripping fabric. "Oh!" The excavator rumbled into an empty clearing. The sky was just starting to brighten, the sun was about to rise, and the peak of the mountains were covered in white. Zhi Xiaoduo found that there were no more trees around them, and Xiang Cheng's face, covered in sewage and dirt, was turned straight forward under the soft, dim light. In the midst of the clearing, there was a huge black pit, and Zhi Xiaoduo had almost driven them into it. He hurriedly backed up, and the tracks spun as he drove carefully around its edge. He turned to look and asked, "What place is this?" "Where my mom cast her magic back in the day," Xiang Cheng said slowly. Zhi Xiaoduo turned to look at Xiang Cheng. When he hadn't looked, it had been all right, but now that he looked, he was frightened. Xiang Cheng's body was covered in blood, his jacket had been ripped to shreds, and his chest and arms were covered in injuries. A large bloody hole had also been torn on his thigh. "Xiang Cheng." "I'm all right," Xiang Cheng said, tiredly hugging Zhi Xiaoduo. "Continue driving forward." "We have to stop the bleeding first," Zhi Xiaoduo replied. "Why didn't you say that you have such grave injuries?" Xiang Cheng leaned quietly back in the passenger seat, while Zhi Xiaoduo dug through his bag and found the wound-healing medicine to stop his bleeding. He then tore off strips from his shirt to use as bandages, which he wrapped tightly around his thigh. The morning light showed that in the distance, there was a collapsed mountain range. After many years, vegetation had sprouted to cover the top, and where it had collapsed had become a canyon. But anyone in their profession could tell with a single glance that the direction of the mountain range, when it got to that point, was wildly different from anywhere else. "Is it here?" Zhi Xiaoduo asked. "I can't remember clearly anymore," Xiang Cheng murmured. "Drive a little further in." "I feel like it's here," Zhi Xiaoduo said. "Look at the canyon up ahead." It was created by a mountain ridge splitting apart. There was another disused quarry outside. Zhi Xiaoduo drove the excavator up onto the pile of rubble and rocks. This mountain seemed to have experienced several mudslides, and had even been blasted by explosives a few times, as they were surrounded by rubble. The excavator continued forward, but with a sudden jerk, it got caught in a shallow ditch. With a throwaway glance, Xiang Cheng saw the oval pebbles in the ditch, and he said, "You found it? Was this originally a small creek?" Zhi Xiaoduo asked. "Yes," Xiang Cheng said, his spirits rising. "I'll get off, you wait here." No, Zhi Xiaoduo protested. "You're injured, so don't move." The excavator turned around and headed along the little creek. The creek had been split by a cliff wall, and there were signs of water erosion along the cliff. Zhi Xiaoduo did not let Xiang Cheng drive, and he turned this way and that before he found where the crag had collapsed. He then used the excavator to claw away the mud and rocks covering it, revealing a deep, narrow, naturally formed tunnel. "Thanks for your hard work," Wang Lei's voice called down from the sky. "And now, please accept your fates." Zhi Xiaoduo and Xiang Cheng turned back swiftly. The helicopter rumbled as it crossed over the mountain ridge, flying towards them. A guided missile suddenly left the rails and shot towards them. But then, there was a wolf's roar, and the grey wolf shot out from a tall cliff, biting down on the missile. The flow of time seemed to come to a halt as, in the span of a single second, Xiao Bin and Lang Dog both leapt off the grey wolf's back, heading for the helicopter. The grey wolf, with the missile in its mouth, leapt the other way, and when it tossed the missile away, the missile made an earth-shaking explosion. With one punch, Xiao Bin shattered the bulletproof glass of the cabin, and the door suddenly shot open. What came right at him was a hail of sharp swords, and Xiao Bin leaned backwards. From the other side, Lang Dog charged into the helicopter and bit down on Wang Lei's arm. "It ends here," Feng Li's voice said coldly as he leapt out from behind Lang Dog. Both his hands were in the sword fingers pose, and he had a leaf on his head. Instantly, he turned into a white whale, flashing with light, and the helicopter expanded outwards under that force, exploding in midair. The white whale opened its lateral fins, and feathers sprouted from them as it turned into a white bird, which caught Lang Dog and Xiao Ben before spiraling down in flight towards the ground. "Hurry up and get in," Xiang Cheng said. Feng Li tossed Xiao Ben and Lang Dog down to the ground. Xiang Cheng leapt out and backwards, and he turned in the air, transforming into the boss snake. With a curl of his tail, the four walls of the tunnel once again came caving in. The grey wolf was covered in blood from the explosion, and it came dashing towards the cave entrance. Zhi Xiaoduo shouted, "Wait a sec." The other helicopter had caught up, and it was dropping a wave of explosives towards the tunnel. Zhi Xiaoduo dashed towards the entrance, and the grey wolf staggered along, dragging its wounded hind paw behind it. Amidst the explosions, it crawled into the entrance, leaving a trail of blood on the ground. The grey wolf stopped in its steps and lifted a front paw, making a shoe gesture at Zhi Xiaoduo from afar. Zhi Xiaoduo wanted to dash out, but Feng Li dragged him back. Outside, the helicopters had begun to release a sweeping bombardment, and the cave completely collapsed. Feng Li transformed into a white fox and dashed forward as swiftly as an arrow. "Go!" Xiang Cheng shouted. Xiang Cheng had Zhi Xiaoduo's collar all bunched up as he grabbed him. The two of them were in the very front, while Xiao Ben and Lang Dog followed behind, running deeper into the cave. The entire mountain shook, and under the helicopter's bombardment, thousands of tons of rock came pouring in a massive flood towards the cave entrance. The group fled for their lives as the entrance collapsed. "There's no way forward," Xiao Ben shouted. "Down the well." Suddenly, a long snake appeared behind them, and it spun as it charged in. Wherever it went, the soil parted, and as soon as it appeared, the cavern once again began to collapse. That was a huge earthworm, and Zhi Xiaoduo was so frightened that he screamed. The earthworm spat out a person covered in sticky liquid. Kita curled up on the ground, gasping for breath. Fengli was completely exhausted. He transformed into a human, and he leaned up against the wall of the cavern, panting as he caught his breath. Xiao Ben and Lang Dog stepped forward, and each of them slung one of Kita's arms over their shoulders. With Xiang Cheng in the lead, they headed deeper into the cavern, down the ladder along the side of the well. The ground shook rhythmically. Wang Lei seemed to not have given up on chasing after them yet. The six of them reached the bottom of the well and fled along the path that the run-off took. Zhi Xiaoduo's feet slipped, and he let out a loud cry, only for Xiang Cheng to catch him in a hug. The fast flow of the water led them deeper underground, and Zhi Xiaoduo's head spun as they were washed about. Finally, they fell out into a slot-like cavern, and they slid over the side of a 10-meter-high waterfall into a deep pool, hitting the water with a thud. Lang Dog, Xiao Ben, Fengli, and Kita fell in after them. Xiang Cheng first led Zhi Xiaoduo up onto the bank, before he then stepped forward, yanked Kita's collar, and dragged him out of the water. 10 minutes later, the world finally quieted down. Zhi Xiaoduo was so cold that he couldn't stop shivering. He dug out the lighter and swiped it a few times, sending up sparks that lit the few pieces of wood on the ground. A whiff of rot floated through the cavern. Fengli's forehead was swollen and red from the impact, and Zhi Xiaoduo wrapped his head for him, while Xiang Cheng looked over Kita's wounds. Shrapnel had broken Kita's right leg, so Xiang Cheng righted his bone for him with a kika. It was so painful that Kita let out a loud bellow, his voice echoing through the mountain cavern. "Stop his bleeding," Xiang Cheng said. Zhi Xiaoduo scattered the wound-closing medicine over Kita. Everyone was completely exhausted. They had gone for a whole 3 days and 2 nights without sleep. "What time is it?" 9:30 in the morning, Xiang Cheng replied. "We'll take a short rest right where we are." No one spoke, because the first thing they did was to sleep, in order to recover their energy. Zhi Xiaoduo was so tired that he couldn't hold out either, but this time, he didn't have any dream. Kita leaned up against the wall of the cavern, his eyes shut. A moment later, he suddenly opened his eyes, only to see that Fengli had turned into a little pig and had stuck its tongue out, licking at the place where Kita's leg had broken. The area around that spot was swelling, but as the little pig licked it over and over, the swelling was slowly going down. "What did you turn into?" Kita asked. "A dankong," Fengli replied. "A kind of animal that you don't recognize. Its saliva can heal wounds." Fengli turned back into a human. Kita moved his right leg around, it had miraculously healed. Fengli seemed to be very tired, but he waved his hand, indicating that there was no need for thanks, before he leaned up against the wall of the cavern and fell asleep. Kita carefully reached out a hand and placed it on his shoulder, and upon seeing that Fengli did not open his eyes, slapped him. He then pulled Fengli a little closer to himself, letting him lean against his own shoulder. At the same time, Chongqing, at the Jiangbei airport. Zhou Wanyuan followed behind Zhou Mokuo as they walked out of the airport. Just as Zhou Mokuo turned on his phone, it began to ring non-stop. "I'm in Chongqing," Zhou Mokuo said, picking up the call. "Xian Hezi is in the downtown area, waiting for orders. I've sent someone to assist you, he's almost at the airport," Dishuman replied. "Chi Wei found a big issue in his investigation, and after you meet up with him, he'll tell you." Zhou Mokuo hung up and turned to look back at Zhou Wanyuan. Zhou Wanyuan stood there, her expression one of irritation. Wanyuan, Zhou Mokuo said. Are you unhappy? You promised Mama that you would never go to Mount Wu again, Zhou Wanyuan said, avoiding Zhou Mokuo's gaze. Returning to the Exorcist committee was already a mistake. Zhou Mokuo put on his sunglasses as he stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling glass windows. The outside was a sea of grey fog. His phone was ringing again, and Zhou Mokuo glanced at it. The caller was Xian Hezi, and he immediately rejected the call, thought for a moment, and nodded. That was only a divination. This is the last time, Zhou Mokuo said. Zhou Wanyuan protested, it's too dangerous. Tonggu's divinations are always proven correct. Though what happened back then had not come to pass, I'm afraid. Xiang Jianhua was my friend, Zhou Mokuo replied, just like how Xiaoduo and Xiang Cheng are your friends. Forget it, Zhou Wanyuan said. You're always like this. You never listen to anyone. It's not that I don't want to listen to you, Zhou Mokuo said. You all are just too young, and there are many things that, if I were to explain, you would not understand. Zhou Wanyuan turned around, refusing to meet her father's eyes. There's a saying, Zhou Mokuo said, sighing, which goes, the ringer of the bell is needed to untie it. I've worn these shackles for too long, and sooner or later, I'll have to face it. It's been so many years, and you haven't been to Mount Wu, not even once, Zhou Wanyuan said anxiously. Why must you go now? Zhou Mokuo replied, it's not mere coincidence. I have long since planned to do this. That day, when teacher Zhang came to the association, he reminded me, otherwise I would never have thought about this. Zhou Wanyuan lowered her head to look at the watch on her wrist, and she carelessly swept her hand through her hair, her eyes starting to redden. You have already treated Xiang Cheng very well, never mind that back then, you had no way to stop him either. Zhou Mokuo drank some water, looking at the fog outside the glass wall. I did not kill Boran, yet Boran died because of me, Zhou Mokuo said, sighing. The Qi family has also felt guilty because of what happened back then. Zhou Mokuo's phone rang again, it was Qi Wei. Qi Wei was at the exit, and he was holding a bag, looking for them. Zhou Mokuo waved at him, and at the same time, called Xian Hezi. Xian Hezi's car was parked outside the airport. Qi Wei climbed into the front passenger seat, while Zhou Mokuo and Zhou Wanyuan sat in the back. What is the situation currently? Zhou Mokuo asked. We've lost contact with all of them, Xian Hezi replied. Teacher Zhou, the executive director of the Northwestern Exorcist Association is waiting for you at the regional headquarters here. Make a call right away, tell them to prepare a helicopter, Zhou Mokuo said. Xian Hezi was a little hesitant. He moved his head to look into the side mirror, before he spun the wheel, turning the car around. Zhou Mokuo asked, is there an issue? Jian Wen. I already know, Zhou Mokuo said. I've come here to take command from Jian Wen. Xian Hezi nodded, and the car sped swiftly into the city. Qi Wei was breathing rapidly. He looked out the window, the car window reflecting the anxious lines of his handsome face. What sort of incredible secret did Teacher D uncover in her investigation? Zhou Mokuo asked. After you and Teacher D communicated over the whereabouts of the golden arrows, we began to look over the records from 10 years ago. I've already looked over them, Zhou Mokuo replied. I did not find any suspicious parts. But according to what my father said after he returned, there were slight discrepancies with what the exorcism committee had, because he was not the one to give the report directly to Beijing. Zhou Mokuo, tell me. This morning, Qi Wei said in reply, I found a conversation between Hu Xiniang and the Blood Devil during the Battle of Mount Ba in the past, which my father managed to find information on. The specific topic was that the Blood Devil let Hu Xiniang know of the sacred land's whereabouts. The sacred land? Zhou Mokuo asked. The sacred land, Qi Wei said anxiously. The sacred land that the blood devil wants to find is not the same place as the sacred land they're at. This, we already know, Jomokuo said. Gagantoru Akita told the old Buddha about this conversation a day ago. The sacred land from 1,000 years ago is near where the Battle of Mount Ba happened. Xiang Cheng returned there because he suspects that his mother once hid the golden arrows amongst the ruins. That's correct, Qi Wei said, but Hu Xiniang didn't know that. Jomokuo suddenly seemed to realize something. Qi Wei quickly explained. Hu Xiniang and the Blood Devil have been at odds for many years. Hu Xiniang's goal was to hasten the revival of Mara, no matter the cost, to bolster the power of the Yao clans. That was why he tried to find a way to lure Xiang Cheng into a trap. The Blood Devil, however, wanted to nurture Jinghao, so that he could pick a good time to consume the boss snake and use the Daoti's power of mixing chaos and harmony to cultivate him into Mara. This way, Mara would be under his command, because as soon as Jinghao becomes Mara, the Blood Devil can use the blood curse in Jinghao's body to control it. That is why Xiang Cheng heading to Mount Ba right now is exactly what the Blood Devil desires, Qi Wei said. The Blood Devil had Wang Lei and Jinghao gather all of their subordinates, because he needs to successfully steal back the relic. He will then have Jinghao consume Xiang Cheng inside the Yao clan's sacred hall and complete his refinement, thus giving rise to the next Mara. He has truly bitten off more than he can chew, Jomokuo said. The sacred land has long since started to decay. How much use can it be, even despite his turning out all in force? No, Qi Wei replied. Do you remember what Senior Xiang Jianhua said? The ruins of the sacred land are not empty. Several hundreds of thousands of Yaoguai are sealed there, all Yaoguai from 1,000 years ago with high levels of cultivation. As long as the Blood Devil is able to steal away Xiang Cheng's devil seed, he will be able to control all the Yaoguai. Jomokuo's forehead was furrowed in a deep frown. He pulled out his phone to give Beijing a call. Teacher Di had me bring along the map of the mountains and rivers, Qi Wei said. It's right there in my bag. If things really don't work out, we can bring the map of the mountains and rivers to that spot, then destroy the artifact. With that, we'll be able to bury the relic entirely. In the cavern, when Zhi Xiadu awoke, he found himself lying against Xiang Cheng's chest. He could feel his strong heartbeat. Kita did his best to open his eyes, and he woke up somewhat. Where are we supposed to go from here? No one replied. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. In the underground cavern, Fengli used a tree branch to poke at the fire. Their shadows were cast onto the wall of the cavern, forming grotesque black shapes. Xiang Cheng looked up into the distance. Chao Ben rose, looking up at the entrance to the waterfall that they had fallen down. It was over 10 meters tall, and there were no handholds. Ah! Zhi Xiaoduo suddenly shouted. He had seen the several skeletons deep in the cavern. Xiang Cheng gestured for him to relax, and he said, they've been here all along. They've been dead for a very long time. Who were they? Zhi Xiaoduo asked. The workers who cut into the mountain, Xiang Cheng replied. Fengli asked, how did your father discover the sacred land? It was in 1985, Xiang Cheng replied, over 30 years ago. There was a project to cut into the mountain in Baishan County. The tunnel that you guys saw was actually opened up with explosives. That year, the first stage of the process began in the town of Mount Ba. They planned to cut through the mountain, open up a passageway, and build a road. They wanted to link up the southwestern portion of Mount Ba, the three gorges of the Changjiang, and Mount Wu, with tunnels. One reason was to seek out those remote villages hidden away in the mountains, for the sake of providing for those who lived there. The other reason was to make travel along the banks of the three gorges even easier. After the tunnels opened, they would lead west to the urban district of Chongqing, east to Hubei province, which bordered Wushan County, and this highway would connect both of those. But halfway through the first phase of the project, the team of workers who were opening up the mountain found a completely cut-off village deep in the mountains. This village had passed down legends about Fengdu, Zhou County, Yunyang, Fengjia, Mount Wu, and the surrounding regions for many generations. Legend had it that on Mount Wu, there was a barrier that could not be passed, which was where the Ghost City moniker for Fengdu had originated. Whoever opened up the mountain would be thrown into hell. Of course, the workers didn't believe that, and they moved the entire village to a nearby county capital as they prepared to start digging at the site of the village. Back then, in the remote village, there just so happened to be a visitor, which was a young Xiang Jianhua who had come to the village to capture Yao. Xiang Jianhua was carrying a long staff on his back, and he had a bow slung across his back. He looked like a hunter in the mountains, and he followed the construction workers to this nameless mountain. A month later, as they were using explosives to open up the mountain, hundreds of workers were trapped inside the mountain for a whole 40 days. Did your father also walk this road before to come inside and save them? Zhi Xiaoduo asked. Xiang Cheng said. He set out from Mount Wu and searched along the underground river for a very long time. He traversed almost 1,000 li before finding this place. The underground river network under the Fengdu mountain ridge is vast and sprawling, and it connects up with almost all of the mountain ridges nearby. The workers that were opening up the mountain probably also found this road. They walked all the way to this cavern, where they found themselves trapped, and finally died of starvation here. It was in this period of time that my dad met my mother, Xiang Cheng said. As for how that exactly came to be, he never told me. I suspect that it was right then that the priestess woke, Feng Li replied. It might have even been somewhere underground. Perhaps, Xiang Cheng replied. She always treated this place as her true home, and was not willing to move too far away. My family just so happened to be Fengdu people as well, so they moved to Fengdu and took up residence there. Before I turned 7, she would even bring me here from time to look at it. The road that I took when she took me here was the exit behind the waterfall that we took. Xiao Bin spoke. Which is to say, the original entrance has been flooded, but there is another exit. Why don't I lead Kita out first then? Xiang Cheng replied, there should be more than one exit, but I only know of that one. There is no way for us to turn back, Feng Li said. We can only continue ahead, milord. Let's move out, Zhi Xiaoduo suggested. We'll all go together. That way, it'll be a little safer. Xiao Bin helped Kita to his feet. Kita's injury hadn't fully healed yet, and he limped along, using a wooden stick as a cane. Zhi Xiaoduo didn't say thanks or anything like that to Kita, because there was no longer any need for such words between them. It wasn't for the sake of helping Xiang Cheng, Kita whispered furtively into his ear, upon seeing that Zhi Xiaoduo was a little sad. You understand? And he winked at him, before looking at Feng Li. Zhi Xiaoduo was torn between laughing and crying, and he asked, does your leg still hurt? It doesn't, Kita replied easily, as if it wasn't a concern. He looked around him, asking, is this the previous sacred land? Feng Li replied, it should be. You been here before? Xiang Cheng asked. I haven't, Feng Li replied. But I've been to the sacred land under the Tanggula range, and the entrance is very similar. Wang Lei isn't chasing us, Xiao Bin's voice echoed through the cavern. He's probably already here, Feng Li replied. It's just that since the road was blocked, he's searching for an entrance elsewhere. They left the lava cave behind. Zhi Xiaoduo looked down, only to see that at the side of the cave still dripping with water, there was a wrapper. When picked it up, he saw that it was a pack of raccoon dry ramen noodles. Zhi Xiaoduo. I dropped this when I came here before, Xiang Cheng said. Everyone, follow me. Xiang Cheng held the torch in one hand, and Zhi Xiaoduo's hand in the other. Zhi Xiaoduo asked, after that, why did the local authorities decide to stop the plan to open up the mountain? Xiang Cheng replied, My dad said that he figured out a way to persuade the person in charge not to dig any deeper, otherwise they would dig out something even more dangerous. But no one believed that, and in the year that followed, supervisor after supervisor died. Zhi Xiaoduo was greatly frightened, and he said, "Did everyone who came in die?" "No," Xiang Cheng replied. "They didn't even come in. Then they were killed?" Zhi Xiaoduo asked. Logically speaking, if someone was to intrude upon the Yao clan's ancient sacred land, the Tanggula Mountains faction would have probably taken some sort of action. "That's right," Xiang Cheng replied. "You're very smart. That was exactly what happened. My guess is, it was at that time that my father began to investigate Hu Ziniang's whereabouts." "But how did Hu Ziniang know?" Zhi Xiaoduo asked, before an idea struck him. "Yes, it must have been when your mother awoke. She must have activated some sort of reporting mechanism that informed those over in the Tanggula Mountains." Xiang Cheng replied. "That's why they sent the nine-tailed celestial fox out, in order to stop the humans from digging any further. He killed many people, and he searched for my mother. Then, the year I turned 7, Hu Ziniang found her and took her away." At the end of the stalactite-studded tunnel, Xiang Cheng, with torch in hand, stood on a platform that hung over thin air. Beneath the platform was a bottomless abyss, and to the two sides of the platform were 3 braziers. Xiang Cheng lit one of them, and there was a huge boom. Green flames burst forth from 3 braziers, and like a flashbang, they lit up the vast space. In front of them appeared a bronze city. The city walls were covered with odd patterns, and in the city stood row upon row of odd sculptures, each strange and unique. The city must have taken up hundreds of cheng. In the center of the sacred land was a tall tower. Before Zhi Xiaoduo could see it clearly, the braziers went out with another boom, and the world sank into darkness. "What's wrong?" Lang Dog asked, looking around. Xiang Cheng didn't reply. He placed the torch on the second brazier, and the flames of then ether lit up again. This time, they glowed red as they lit up the sacred land. Zhi Xiaoduo looked at the sacred land down beneath his feet, and he remarked quietly, "This city's layout is so structured." Everyone looked at Zhi Xiaoduo, baffled. Zhi Xiaoduo continued, "It's laid out in a shape, which is a little bit like the Mayans. There are 8 major regions on the outside, thus forming the inner city region and the outer city region. The main aqueduct allows for both flood control as well as drainage. There's a moat that wraps around the outer city, which is the underground river that flows under Mount Wu." "So?" Kita asked. "Nothing," Zhi Xiaoduo replied expressionlessly. "I just wanted to praise the Yaoguai's sense of aesthetics and their building style." "I don't know who built it?" Zhi Xiaoduo asked Fengli quietly, "Can I take pictures?" Fengli replied quietly, "You'd best not." "Take them," Xiang Cheng said. Zhi Xiaoduo hurriedly turned him down, giving up on taking pictures. He began to carefully study the layout and the sections of the sacred land. The brazier went out for a second time, and their surroundings returned to darkness. Xiang Cheng held the torch, hesitating. Zhi Xiaoduo understood, this ritual was probably a key to opening the door. "It should be this one," Xiang Cheng said, once again lighting the brazier in the middle. "Stand firm now." Suddenly, there was a huge boom, and the bricks of the altar separated and floated into the air. They automatically arranged themselves into a stairway that connected the city of Yaos and Devils with the mountain, and the stairs extended downwards. At that moment, Zhi Xiaoduo suddenly saw an odd sight, a woman clad in white, leading a child by the hand, floating wraith-like down the stairs into the depths. Who was that?" Zhi Xiaoduo asked nervously. Xiang Cheng asked, "What did you see?" Zhi Xiaoduo described the scene, and Xiang Cheng said, "You saw. That should have been my past self. The brazier can capture the breath of those who have entered, and every time someone enters, they'll leave behind a brief trace of themselves. The helicopter hummed around them. Zhou Mokuo leaned back in his chair, nodding off. Heavens, Zhou Wanyuan said as she looked down at the mountains and river below them. It was nearing twilight, and the forests were filled with a black mass of yaos and devils. They had formed a circle and were currently inexorably closing in on the center. Xian Hezi sat in the front passenger seat, and he took off his headphones, turning to look at the ground. Qi Wei asked, "Can you get in contact with any of them?" "None of them have signal," Xian Hezi said. "Prepare the parachutes," Zhou Mokuo said. "I see that mountain." Zhou Wanyuan tied the parachute on for Zhou Mokuo with an angry yank. Zhou Mokuo looked up at Zhou Wanyuan. "Get down there," Zhou Mokuo said. "I'll go first." The cabin door opened. Qi Wei was the first to jump. "You don't want a parachute?" Zhou Wanyuan shrieked, so scared that her face was bloodless. But at that moment, the sky filled with birds, all speeding towards them. In midair, Qi Wei began to form seals with his hands as he silently chanted an incantation. A fiery dragon flew towards him, and in the air, Qi Wei flipped over, grabbed one of the dragon's horns with one hand, and landed on one knee on the dragon's head. He turned, controlling the fire dragon as it drifted through the air, spewing out blazing flames. The Yao birds that had been emitting that black energy were immediately swept clean. Zhou Mokuo jumped out, and Zhou Wanyuan came right after him. In the air, the two of them opened their parachutes. But it was just at that very moment that the situation suddenly changed. A crack opened up amidst the dense black clouds in the sky, and fiery red meteors plummeted towards the earth. There were multiple huge booms, and a meteor scraped the tail of the helicopter. Xian Hezi shouted loudly as it began to plummet downwards. Qi Wei, riding a fiery dragon, flew towards Zhou Mokuo, but instead got hit by a meteor and plummeted off the dragon's head. In midair, Zhou Wanyuan transformed into the white deer, and she caught Qi Wei with one of her antlers as she went falling towards the earth below. In the mountain, the world shook around them, and a muffled thud came from afar. Xiang Cheng stopped in his tracks and looked up. They were standing in the middle of the stone steps. If they walked any further, they would enter the sacred land. "Was that thunder?" Zhi Xiaoduo asked. "Something crashed into the mountain," Feng Li replied, looking up at the roof of the cavern. They approached the great cast iron gate in front of them. Xiang Cheng pondered for a moment, before he raised a hand and pressed it against the door. The symbols on the door glowed with light, and the doors swung open to the sides. Bright light flooded in like the tide, and in that instant, Zhi Xiaoduo felt a change happen to his dragon pupil. An odd symbol appeared in front of his eyes, dissolving into the dragon pupil, before that light enveloped it. Ah! Under the light, Feng Li turned into a snowy white fox. With a woof, Lang Dog also turned into a dog. Zhi Xiaoduo. Xiang Cheng frowned. "What's going on?" "This is probably an area that forbids the presence of devils," Zhi Xiaoduo said. "Spells can't be cast in the Yao sacred land, so beasts cannot turn into humans, nor can humans turn into beasts." "Take a step back and test it out," Xiang Cheng said. They backed away from the main gate, but Feng Li and Lang Dog did not turn back into their human forms. "There's probably a time limit," Zhi Xiaoduo said. "What should we do?" Xiang Cheng hesitated for a moment, before saying, "An arrow, once released, cannot be called back. Let's keep going." End chapter.